Welcome back to our community. Susie Thomas visiting with Dustin Paulson. He's from Abolish Abortion, Ohio. And again, we'll state again that we are recording this the day before Election Day. So we don't know. We don't know which policy is in place. We don't know which platform came out on top last week. But Dustin, regardless of that, it sounds like you're going to be politically active no matter what. Tell us a little bit about the actions that you're taking and the actions you suggest that we all take.
Okay. Currently in Ohio, we have at our website and through the different abolition societies, we have the Bill of Abolition available for people to download or make copies of and circulate. This is a bill in our state that would completely abolish abortion, abortifacient birth control, and abortifacient practices of IVF, where human beings are left in freezers over long extended periods of time until they eventually die in a freezer, and then they're discarded or they're sold off as property to be experimented on.
This is happening?
Oh, at IVF clinics? Absolutely. Yeah, they'll create multiple embryos and maybe implant some and freeze the rest. And then they're left there abandoned by their parents as orphans in a freezer. And there are abolitionists and other people in the country that will go to these places and say, can I adopt that baby that's in a freezer somewhere? I know of one in Oklahoma right now. I think their son is turning almost 2 now, I believe. And he was in a freezer for years.
When you say, okay, at what age are these? These are still in the developmental stage?
Yeah, they're in dishes,
like
petri
embryos.
dishes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And if a person were wanting to adopt them, what would they do?
They'd have to check with their state. I'm not sure how that works in here in Ohio. I haven't really looked into it.
Okay.
So,
but there are people that are willing to step forward and say, that embryo we recognize as a human being. We would like to adopt them and give them a chance at life.
Correct.
Okay. Continue, please.
So, as far as what our efforts are here in Ohio, there's 3 things we're looking to do. One, we have a church that is the bride of Christ, his helpmeet, and has been given his authority to go into the world and expand his kingdom. His kingdom come, his will be done on earth as it is in heaven. That is our goal as Christians, is to expand the kingdom of God. The problem is, though, that the church is kind of asleep on abortion. And by kind of, I really mean that they are almost completely asleep. Now, when you say abortion, you say things like ministry to the unborn or missionaries to the unborn. You think immediately the clinic, that the clinic is like the front lines. But we say, no, the clinic is actually the final lines. The front lines is the church, the culture, and our legislators. The final lines is where you have those last few seconds, like up in Akron, that you get. I mean, we're talking 15 seconds to plead with a mom. Please come out and talk with us. Mm-hmm. You do not have to do this. There is help available. This is a wicked thing you're about to do. Mm-hmm. Okay. So we understand that that idea of thinking about the clinic is where most Christians, when they get interested in doing something about abortion, will immediately think that they need to go, which is good. We need to hold those back, according to Proverbs 24:11. Hold those back that are stumbling to their death. We need to do that. We need to be that voice there for the unborn, because they don't have a voice. Unlike slavery, where slaves could run away and they could speak on their own behalf, the unborn do not have a voice. We got to be their voice. So in Ohio, we are attempting to do 3 things. We're trying to wake the churches up to the condition. And if you look at the clinic is a great thermometer, and it tells the temperature of the church on abortion. And on any given Saturday in Akron, there is maybe 1 to 3 Christians in an area surrounding here of thousands and thousands of Christians. If we had a men's breakfast, they would come out by the hundreds. Mm-hmm. If we were to do something fun, they would come out by the hundreds. But we say they're murdering human beings, and they're like, that's your ministry. We don't view it as a ministry or a calling. This is a commandment from God. So we view this as a love your neighbor issue, that we're not trying to justify ourselves and say, who is my neighbor? We know our neighbor is those that are being oppressed, like the man that was beaten and left for dead in the parable. And we don't want to be like the religious leaders in that parable who see it and pass on by the other side and go off to maybe the temple to go do their religious duties. Yeah. God says that our worship is to be things like doing justice. He rebuked the Pharisees for tithing at the expense of neglecting justice. Mm-hmm. He said, you guys do all these things. You should do those and do this. You've neglected the greater things, the weightier matters of the law. So we're saying to the Christians of today, we're neglecting this. If the clinic is the thermometer, we are at 0. We are frozen right now, folks. And you see that in the numbers that show up. There's nobody there. There used to be. There's not anymore. So then our second thing we are attempting to do is to wake up our legislators. So we go to them, we call them, we meet with them, we show them this bill of abolition, and we say, if you will sponsor this, we will not have to go through the whole state and get 350,000 signatures. If you'll sponsor this, we'll rally the people behind you. And when the federal government comes in and says, you can't do that, that's repugnant to Roe v. Wade. That's repugnant to the rulings of the Supreme Court. We say, no, their ruling was repugnant to the Constitution. Our men and women in office swore to uphold what? Not their rulings, swore to uphold the Constitution. Mm-hmm. So we back them, and they are backed by God's word and our Constitution.
Yes, there have been some bad laws made and that have been rolled back. And you're saying this is another one that's got to go. Roe v. Wade has got to just go.
It does. It should be repealed completely. Mm-hmm. It's just repugnant to the Constitution altogether.
What's your third thing? And then I got another question for you.
My third thing is waking up the culture. So we go to schools and we go to intersections and we do tract warfare where we leave gospel tracts and pictures and graphic imagery around our around Canton and around the state to wake people up that they're walking through life just completely oblivious to the fact that there's a modern day Holocaust going on. We're at 60 million, at least, that have been counted by surgical. And that doesn't include IVF. That doesn't include abortifacient birth control. Any of those things, those numbers you can't track. And we're trying to wake our culture up and say, look, this is going on right now. That's what the abolitionists of slavery would do. They would take graphic images and even, slaves themselves that had been beaten raw and would show the public. That's what happened during the civil rights movement. Mm-hmm. They would show people that had been fire hose beaten and left for dead. And actually there was one gentleman, Tillman, I think, was killed.
Yes.
And they showed his body. It was open casket. Why? So the culture would wake up. So we're trying to wake up our high schools. So we take images to them and we say, look what's going on. This is murder.
And what response do you get, Dustin?
From the culture, some good, most bad. But that's a condition of our culture. Mm-hmm. We are deeply in need of more salt and light in our nation, in our state. And that's the responsibility of the church. The church needs to wake up.
Time and time again, you see polls taken and it seems that it is increasingly growing that people say, I'm against abortion. Why do we not see then it moving in that direction that abortion would be, as you're saying, abolished completely if more and more and more people are opposed to it? Help me connect those dots.
Pietism. In a word, pietism, people have their personal beliefs, but they don't ever take those and try to affect their culture. So they believe that abortion is wrong. And this is just like me. 4 years ago, it was 2013, when I finally woke up. It was Ray Comfort's 180 movie. If you've ever seen that on YouTube, Ray Comfort had a great movie on 180. It was called 180 on abortion. I watched that one, and I just on the inside, I was like, I am a hypocrite.
For those who have not seen those videos, can you tell his quick conversations that he would have with people, just man on the street interviews?
He would just explain to people that what would you do back in the Holocaust, in the days of the Holocaust? What would you do when they were killing Jews? And most people would say, I would, do something to stop that. Well, you're living in the midst of a Holocaust today. What are you doing to stop that Holocaust? And it woke me up. Mm-hmm. I went to my wife and I'm like, honey, I am so guilty before God of having faith without works, that I have this hypocritical faith that says I love my neighbor, but I have forgotten and abandoned like the least of these. Yeah. And Jesus is going to come back and say, what did you do for the least of these? And I'm going to say, for the majority of my Christian life, I did nothing. I had this great moral opinion, but I did nothing with it. It was worthless. Faith without works is what? It's dead.
Is that what you're seeing, that the church is sort of where the church in general sort of is? That people are saying, personally, I'm opposed, but I don't feel that I'm allowed to, push my opinion on someone else. Is that where we are?
Pretty much, yeah. We have this saying that if they were killing 1-year-olds, we would act immediately.
Yeah.
There would be uproar in the streets. People would be demanding justice, and immediately we would be going down to Columbus and standing around the Capitol and saying, you're not going to allow this in our state. If the Supreme Court ever said killing a 1-year-old is completely acceptable and we're going to start building clinics where you can take your 1-year-old to kill him, I would hope, and I say this with great faith in our state, but I currently we are allowing a Holocaust to go on anyway. But I would hope that we would rush down there and say, not in our state. We are saying the same thing now, not in our state, not in our country.
Dustin Paulson is with Abolish Abortion, Ohio. You have a petition on the website. Remind everybody again what we can do.
Yeah, the website is abolishabortionoh.com. You can go there. You can look up actually what the language of the bill is. You can see what we've done up to this point. You can see what news stories that we've been featured in. You can kind of get an idea of what you can do in your area to help. Another website you can go to is abolishhumanabortion.com. You can look for in your area if there is a society. There are multiple societies across our state. I think there's 6 or 7 around more of the metro areas. You can find out how you can get connected with them. You can begin doing the work of abolition immediately. It requires a voice. It requires a heart that loves the Lord and that hates abortion and that loves their neighbor.
Kind of a modern-day John Brown, except the issue now, the Holocaust going on now, and the slavery issue of our generation and the Holocaust issue of our generation is this abortion issue, is it not?
It is. It's our slavery. It's our Holocaust. It is our civil rights. And, we are completely devoted to nonviolent. We do not want to see another civil war, and we don't believe in taking the law into our own hands. So we press very much on our legislators and our lesser magistrates, which another great book to read on this, if you wanted to follow up on this, would be The Doctrine of the Lesser Magistrates by Matt Truella, an excellent book on discussing how a minority of a state or of any group can come to their legislators and call for justice, showing them that if you'll do this, we will get behind you. But until you do this, we will not get behind you.
Website one more time.
Abolishabortionoh.com.
Dustin Paulson, thank you so much for joining us today and for all you're doing in our community.
Thank you, Susie.